Now, award-winning actress Michelle Beres has passed away at the age of 62. Confirmed by Beres magazine, which conducted the last interview with Beres, the family confirmed that she succumbed to cancer this morning. The Isidingo and Legacy star had been battling myeloma for over 2.5 years since being diagnosed in July 2022. Beres reportedly had begun more holistic, less invasive cancer treatment in November, but had deteriorated rapidly over the past 2 weeks. During her career, she won numerous awards and was best known for her role as Cheryl de Villiers Haynes on Isidingo and Angelique Price in Legacy. Joining us now is Jack Devnarain, who is the former Isidingo actor and, of course, colleague then of Michelle Beres. Jack, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it. One can't imagine what a day like this must feel for yourself as well. Won't you just help us understand who Michelle Beres was as a person, because you got to know her beyond the screen.
And that was a huge privilege as well for me. It was, I had walked into the production as a very young professional, coming into one of South Africa's most loved series and surrounded by the cast that were just some of South Africa's most respected performers. And Michelle Beres remains TV royalty for me. So there's, you know, her contribution to film and TV in South Africa is just indelible. She's such a powerful personality, such a professional, and she led by example. She gave her heart and soul to her work, and that sense was infectious. Everybody picked up on, if you're going to be working on a show, in a scene with Michelle Beres, you're going to bring your best game.
Yeah, and one imagines then that having needed to bring out the best of you and the best in everyone else meant that we really saw believable characters, characters we ultimately lived with, right? And one remembers anecdotes of Michelle Beres crossing the street and just walking around, and people ultimately coming to her and ultimately almost hating her in some ways as well because of the character. That is how much she lived the work as well, right?
Very much, very much. And I remember I was taken aback once, early on in my career, first few years on Isidingo, and Michelle Beres was having a discussion with the head of department for wardrobe. And she was explaining that in this scene, Cheryl is fighting for her life in a corporate boardroom. And I'm sorry, but I'm not going to be wearing that pink frill today. And it never occurred to me that you could even have these discussions. But such was Michelle's preparation and her vision of the scene, that she would engage in these discussions in the most professional way, and she would be heard.
Yeah, now you've had, and it's unfortunate, I mean, the cast of Isidingo is one that I think a lot of people across the country will obviously look at and remember absolutely fondly, including the likes of Robert Whitehead as well then in all of this. Just thinking of how big a loss this is then for the industry. I mean, is there any way to even describe that?
I can scarcely believe that we are sitting now talking about the loss of somebody like Michelle, when already earlier this year we lost Darlington Michaels.
Exactly,
Mam Connie Chiume, you know, Selo Motlong. And that list goes on if you go further back. It's disturbing to think that we have lost, you know, Shona Ferguson and Jamie Bartlett, such incredible performers, true icons of the South African film and TV industry. And we wonder, you know, in an industry sense, whether we have acknowledged them, whether we have appreciated them and given them their due, particularly in the regulatory sense, which is what they were so, you know, they fought with such passion for their right to earn from their work. And you know, it obviously falls to us to continue that legacy to fight.
How do you continue then to fight in this time as well for their legacy, for a legacy like Michelle Beres has? I mean, some may say perhaps let's organize a foundation in her name, etc. You know, and those sort of things can give lasting legacies to the person and to what it is that they actually brought to the industry and the broader country as well.
Yeah, you know, my memory of Michelle is that she was a lot less sentimental about these things than you might think. She was a huge pragmatist. Her approach to industry was common sense, and she would be less interested in a foundation and probably more interested in, are we paying performers for the rights to use their work in perpetuity?
Yeah.
Are we bringing to their families, to the surviving families and to their estates, what should be their due for the ongoing exploitation of their work? Which is why the South African Guild of Actors has consistently pushed for Parliament, pushed for the signing of the Copyright Amendment Bill, pushing for the statutory right for actors to earn royalties. And I think that's where the legacy of all these great actors lie.
Are you able to perhaps share just another anecdote or two with regards to this? And I know it can be difficult to perhaps do that sometimes because there's so many that you perhaps go through.
Yeah.
But ones that perhaps you remember fondly, that we could live this experience as well with you.
Michelle absolutely loved children. She would just radiate warmth and energy whenever a child was working on set, or if one of the cast or crew brought their own kids to work that day.
And yet, on set of Isidingo, she wasn't necessarily the fondest fan of Barker Haynes' own child, was she?
Oh, no, she was a real warrior. A real warrior. No, but such was her warmth that she absolutely loved children. And she was an incredible prankster as well.
Yeah.
She loved practical jokes, especially for the people who knew that she knew would take a joke, and for the people that she loved. And I remember once she was doing a media interview, and the interviewer asked her, "Tell us something that we don't know about one of your colleagues." And Michelle mentioned that I have 6 fingers on one hand. And it took weeks of people checking to see whether I have the right number of fingers on my hands. And I was wondering, why are people doing this? Until she revealed to me what she had done. She was incredibly naughty.
Oh, absolutely incredible. All right, let's just talk about the awareness and support for any sort of actor, actress in this industry, where it's ultimately necessary because, lives unfortunately become ones that are difficult to live at a certain age as well, and you still need constant support. Is there sufficient support in an industry like yours?
No, there isn't, which is exactly why we need to establish the statutory right to earn royalties, which is a standard form of earnings around the world for performers.
Yeah.
This is why it was so important for us to have the support for the bills, to have the support by the president, and particularly to have the support by Minister Gayton McKenzie. And we feel absolutely betrayed that at the end of August, when the minister had his 2-day Bospor out with industry, he mentioned, and he took the platform and said very clearly that he's going to ask the president not to sign the bills. That for us was a betrayal of 7 years of work, pushing for the signing of the bills, pushing for the support for actor royalties, and we are still at a loss to understand why the minister went that route and what's his alternative. How then do we earn a residual income if the rest of the world can and we don't?
Have broader conversations been perhaps put forward to say that we could continue to have a discussion? Or is it just a case of the minister having said that this is not happening, I'm not going to say Parliament should sign this bill, and that is that?
That's pretty much what happened. And sadly, we haven't really had much more engagement than that which was had at the Bospor out. But certainly, when you're looking at, for example, you were playing clips earlier in the news about the Bella Act. That took extensive consultation, as should any bill that's going to be passed through Parliament. And the Copyright Amendment Bill and the Performers Protection Amendment Bill had 7 years of that. So we are wondering how much does the minister know about this, particularly because these bills were put into Parliament not by the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, but by the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition. So what does the minister know that he's not telling us?
Yeah, it certainly feels like there are different parts of all of this as well. Jack, it's very difficult. I can only imagine. I don't know if you've had any communication with the family perhaps as well, but their sense and sentiment to the country, perhaps on the passing then of Michelle, and what their words may be, do you think then as well to the country?
I would very much reflect on the fact that Michelle was a wonderfully, enormously private person who treasured time with her family. And I would think that at this time, you would have family getting together and being close, remembering their mom, and appreciating the gift that she had given them, which was an enormous passion, a full embrace of life. And I think that's what I'd like to just think about, and also to take the opportunity to express our own deep sympathies and condolences to the family for the loss of Michelle.
Indeed. Thank you so, so much for the time. Very fitting, of course, as well, that Michelle Boertes was in the show Legacy, of course, because this is going to be what we will remember, her absolutely fantastic legacy.
Indeed.
Thank you as well for your time and what you continue to give as well to
Thank you.
broadcasting and acting as well across South Africa. Jack Devnarain there, of course, a former colleague to Michelle Boertes and having acted, of course, on Isidingo, among others in the country.